So, bad news is that I got kicked out of the game. Good news is I didn't actually think I was going to make it that far without being totally kicked out. But yay, we're back. So I'm not going to complain, because if you've watched me play Apotheon before, when I was initially playing it, it would kick me out every 5 to 10 minutes. This is the third time that the game has kicked me out after a half hour to an hour. So we're making progress! Yes! Excellent! Okay. And luckily we are back. So, having said that, I wanted to see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about tonight. We actually covered a lot of good stuff tonight. We got to talk a little bit about paleontology in ancient Greece. We got to talk about the origins of the word obscene, which is always fun. If you missed that, again, it comes from a Greek word that means like off stage, because sex and violence could not be seen on stage. It was obscene. So that's really cool. I love etymology. Etymology is one of my favorite things to study. I love the origin of words. I love the origin of expressions. And in fact, I don't know if you know this, but the expression between a rock and a hard place actually is based in ancient Greek mythology, when Odysseus was stuck between a rock and a hard place. And we'll talk about that later. What else did we talk about tonight? We talked about traveling heroes. We talked about the origins of the chimera. It was not only a mythological being just made up from thin air, but it was actually based on something that Greek sailors were witnessing off the coast of the southern coast of Turkey. And to find the sort of factual information behind that legend, I absolutely love this book. It's called Traveling Heroes in the Epic Age of Homer, and it's all about sailors and different ancient Greek civilizations, city-states that went around and founded colonies and picked up local traditions. And I always thought that was really fun. Here's some pictures from it. They're all black and white. I have a lot of books with color in them as well, so you can get an idea of the rich colors. But you notice that ancient Greek art actually changed throughout the millennia. Of course it would. But I think it surprises people how much so. So, for example, I don't think you can see it very well, but there's this ancient Greek urn that's around 770 BCE, and it has birds and rectangular panels, and it was imported to Cyprus. But this is actually a different art form than the art form you're seeing in Apotheon. It's very difficult to see, I know, but it's just a very different art form. I hate to use the word primitive. I don't think that's fair to different civilizations, but you can see that the horses are more stiff. They're more sketches. But it's very beautifully detailed. You've got this sort of checkered background and this beautiful urn. And when the Homeric epics were written, this was about the time that they were actually written, which is very interesting. And I mentioned Chimera earlier. Here's a picture of Zeus throwing his lightning at Typhon, another creature from ancient Greek mythology, which I think is really interesting. And underneath that is a picture of the lair of Typhon, which is this enormous cave. It's this enormous cave, and you can see while people were traveling, their imaginations would go wild. So here's this urn with Zeus and this monster. You see this sort of Near Eastern motif. And then you have a picture, you can't see it very well, but behind this building, that dark spot is an enormous cave, and it was supposed to be the lair of this monster. Now in front of that, I think it's like a medieval church or something like that. But you can see in the background this enormous cave. Look at that. You can totally see why the ancient Greeks had all these stories during their travels about these different people and places, because you'd come across this amazing natural phenomenon, but you wouldn't have any clear explanation as to why it existed, because of course it was extraordinary. So, did the game acknowledge that I beat that last captain. Oh, I did, thank God. Alright. We got the Wall of Ajax. What we're going to do is we're actually going to manually save it, because I don't want to lose a save. Alright. So now, all we have left to do is take on Apollo himself, which will not be an easy task. Apollo, back in the day, and still is a pretty formidable god. The ancient Greeks didn't like to mess with him. He didn't like to be messed with, and the ancient Greeks respected that. I can also, as you can see according to the map, I also still need to take on his sister Artemis. So my objective is to find the boat of Artemis. Here it's to take Apollo's lyre, also called a lyra. So which twin do I take on first? Because they're both going to be pretty difficult. So I'm a little nervous because here's that lion motif again. Near Eastern art was a big influence on ancient Greek art during this time. Do I have any novels set within ancient Rome or Greece that I'd recommend? Absolutely I do. I have many wonderful books on ancient Greece and Rome that I highly recommend. Shoot, they're all behind me, of course. One book I'm reading is called Shadow of the Lion. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Game of Thrones because it's based on the history of Greece after the death of Alexander the Great, when his generals were fighting for power. And I think there were like 4 generals who the empire was divided up amongst, and they ended up fighting. And so this is a historical fiction book that's actually based on that fight. And so, of course, there's a lot of intrigue and backstabbing and war. And again, it's called Shadow of the Lion. Look it up on Amazon. It's by Ruth. I can't pronounce her last name. Gosh darn it. She's a wonderfully skilled writer. I've actually been following her blog as she's been writing this book. But if you like Alexander the Great and you like Game of Thrones type novels, I really like this novel in particular. It's really good. Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield is a very famous book on the Battle of Thermopylae. I'm particular about my Spartan history. I have almost all of Paul Cartledge. He's a famous Spartan historian. I have all of his books on ancient Sparta, and so when I read Gates of Fire, it kind of rolled my eyes. But it's actually a good book, and it's very popular. It's all about the Battle of Thermopylae with King Leonidas and the Battle of 300, who stood against the Persians. Oh my gosh, I totally accidentally killed that innocent citizen. Whoops. Oh, I think I did it again. Whoops. Stop doing that, dude. I'm gonna... Come here. Yeah, you're not worth it. Alright. But anyway, what other books? I think there's a book called First Man of Rome. I didn't like that book as much as other people, but it's very popular. So if you want to read that book, you can as well. Trying to think what else. Oh, Scott Odin is also a good author. He did a book called Men of Bronze. And that's sort of about a clash between the ancient Persians and ancient Greeks. Before the Persian Wars, they clashed a little bit when the ancient Persians were taking over ancient Greece. And this is about 520 BCE. And so it's a book historically based on that. And Scott Odin is a very talented writer, and I highly recommend checking that out. Again, it's called Men of Bronze. What else? Gosh, I put on the spot. There's so many books. I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. Mary Renwalt is famous for her books on ancient Greece. If you're interested, you could start with those. And who else am I missing? There's a really fun detective mystery series that I've been reading. It's by Gary Corby, I think is his name. I'm trying to look at it from here. Blind as a bat here. And it's all about these mysteries set in ancient Greece. It's the Ionian Sanction is one, and it's really interesting. So that's a good series as well. So, at any rate, I apologize because I can't quite see the book from here. But I believe the author's name is Gary Corby, and he's also very talented. So, enjoy that. Spanky111 wants to know, what's it like in Cali? I feel terrible for bragging, but it is amazing. The weather is fantastic right now. Even with fog that came in the past couple of days, it gets no colder than like 56 degrees. I had the window open earlier. I only closed it because of the noise. It's sunny. It's warm. This weekend was summer weather. It felt like Labor Day, not President's Day weekend. I love California. I mean, I know we always burn down and shake down every other year, but I mean, I love it. And it's horribly expensive, by the way. It's impossible. I mean, it's just the living situation. Something's got to give. It's $3,500 a month average to live in San Francisco. Boo. And I'm in the East Bay, and it's ridiculously expensive to live out here, too. So it's expensive. There's always fires. And earthquakes, big earthquakes only happen every 30 to 60 years, so we're okay there, but otherwise, I have no complaints, man. California is the best. Best weather, best food, very laid back, really diverse cultures. If you can, at the very least, visit. I know we're the land of fruits and nuts, but I think you guys would really, really love it if you've never been. Okay, at any rate, we're going to travel to the Agora. The Agora is a public marketplace. Here it is. Let's travel there. And if you are interested in this kind of thing, so the Agora is like the forum in ancient Rome. Here we go. Hi, puppy. So you can see all this food and items. Now, if I wanted to pick a fight, if I wanted to help myself to any of these items, which will give me health and armor, I could, but this guy right here, this guy is not going to tolerate it. So we're not going to pick a fight just yet. Later on, I will pick a fight with the market guards, because I'm powerful enough and I can. Is this game online multiplayer? No, it is local multiplayer. So you can play with one other person. Even if you're playing on PC, you do need a controller, just an FYI. I played a little bit with my coworker Mitch Dyer. We had a lot of fun, but there's not a lot of depth to multiplayer. So basically it's you and a friend battling things out. So you can choose your weapon, you can throw rocks at each other. Again, it's pretty fun, but it's not very deep. And after about 5 minutes, you're like, and I'm done with the multiplayer aspect. So it's more of a local versus thing, and it's just you and one other person. So, hey, Sundisk. Woohoo! Wall of Ajax. There we go. Let's talk to the black market merchant, because he's kind of my favorite dude. By the way, cool little bit of information. His style is the style of what looks like a eunuch or a priest or some sort of Near Eastern, no, don't do that, Near Eastern servant of the Persian Empire. Yeah, Hydrophane. And blast arrows aren't too bad. So, Sundisk, Wall of Ajax. At some point I need to go ahead and save up for this, because this stash key will let me get items from the bottom of the swamp, and I know where that swamp is. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to get a little more proficient with my weapons. So what do I want to upgrade? My axe level, blades, bow, club, spear. Well, I have to admit I use a bow a lot of the time. And if I level up my bow, I'll get 15% increased attack speed and damage. However, I also attack a lot of people with a spear, and I feel like I should do that as well. So let's do this first. Let's see how much money we have left over for better armor, because I feel like my armor is way behind where it needs to be. Hey Megan, how are you? I am doing great. We are having a lot of fun talking about history and games and history in games. We've been talking about ancient monsters, which were based on actual paleontology, so woolly mammoths and dinosaur bones. We've been talking about the origin of words like the word obscene. We've been talking about Ajax and the Iliad. We talked a little bit about the Aeneid, because initially I was going to do Rise Son of Rome tonight for my Twitch cast, and that didn't happen because of an Xbox update. So I thought it'd be really fun to read a little bit of the Aeneid and talk a little bit about Prince Aeneas, because that's our connection to Rome. He is the ancestor of Remus and Romulus, Romulus being the namesake of the ancient city of Rome. We've been all over the place tonight, and it's been really, really fun, and I'm really glad you guys are watching. So let's upgrade to... it's all expensive. Sort of muttering to myself, but I gotta get a better cuirass. Just straight up, I gotta do better. Okay. And I think what we're gonna do... so there's Greek fire. Let's go to the apothecary real fast. Hello, madam.
Bring me the proper herbs and reagents, and I'll set to work on any potion you need.
Have you guys ever noticed that in every ancient movie or TV show or game, any medium based on ancient anything, all the voice actors sound British? Normally, when the voice acting is done in America, they're not actually British. So you'll notice that if you're a resident of the UK, you've probably noticed that their English accent is a little muddled. You're not sure where they're from. But I just find it funny that when we think of ancient anything, we always think of a very posh British accent. I find that hilarious. You know what? I can craft these things, though. And I think I have enough weapons. I should really get some more armor, so we're going to actually go with that. And I have to be very careful, because I only have so much money. And just by default, I call money in this game drachma. I'm not really actually sure if it's called anything but coin. But we're calling it drachma, because that was the ancient, one of the main ancient coin types in the Mediterranean. So every city-state had their own coinage, which was really cool. But the drachma of Athens would end up being sort of the more universal coinage that, until very recently, was used in Greece. Alright. I'm like, really? Really? I'm just like 3 drachma away from upgrading? Oh, garbage. Garbage. I'm cranky about that. What are you looking at, buddy?
Humans anyways, always urinating in my river.
I'm so grumpy about that. That's okay, though. We'll just go to our illegal arms dealer here.
For a price.
I love that line delivery. My network can get you just about anything for a price. Well, okay then. We're gonna get some Hydrofang. Excuse me. We'll get a couple of assassin arrows. And some more blast arrows, because why the hell not? We're gonna blow stuff up. I am really tempted to ransack this entire place. But I'm gonna wait for something, because the last time I ransacked the Agora, I had a little bit of a trick up my sleeve. And I'm gonna do that after I go to Hades. That's right, in order to be successful at this, I gotta sell my soul and go to hell. And I think that that's a good place to stop, because I want to keep you in suspense. What in hell could I possibly get that will help me in heaven? Well, you're just gonna have to wait to find out, because I think this is a great place to stop my Twitch cast for tonight. So with that, thank you so much, you guys, for watching History and Games. I'm your host, Megan Sullivan. I'm super happy. I hope you guys learned something tonight. I hope at least you learn one thing every time I do this Twitch cast. Again, don't be afraid to chime in at any point and talk about your favorite things in ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Feel free to share any interesting facts that you know about history. The fun thing about Twitch is it is entirely participatory. So it's not just you watching me. It's you guys talking to each other. It's you guys sharing your knowledge. I think that's what really will make this really fun, is that we're all in this together. We're all history lovers. We all love games. And we all want to share what we know with each other, because sometimes I'll read stuff that you guys put out there on Twitch and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And I hope that you guys watching have learned something tonight as well. It's always fun to share knowledge with other people. And with that said, we're going to stop here. And I will let you know on my Twitter feed. My Twitter handle is Megan, MEGHAN _IGN. And I will share with you when my next History and Games Twitch cast will be. I'm hoping in the future to make this a syndicated series, or, just something predictable. So, every Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., something like that, so that people know when to tune in. I know that part of the fun of Twitch is sort of being impulsive and doing things whenever you feel like it. But the truth is, I like to give people a heads up so that they can plan accordingly. And if you can't catch every single Twitch cast live, my Twitch casts are temporarily archived on my Twitch channel, Celtic _Queen. So don't worry if you can't make every Twitch cast. They are temporarily archived, and I am going to find a way to upload them to my YouTube channel, which is Queen Megumi on YouTube. And so with all that said, I'm just going to go ahead and jump out of this game. Thank you so much for tuning in. And let me know what you think of each of my Twitch casts on my Twitter feed. And I will see you guys later.